us portem una màquina de baixa tecnologia. And that's all of my Catalan. So, and that probably was not even Catalan. So I'll speak slowly because I'm from Atlanta, and that's the way we talk. We want to show you a kind of low-tech time machine from the archives from the past. I'm Scott Smith. This is Susan Cox-Smith, my partner. Thank you very much for being here today. A manned mission to Mars. A brain-computer interface. A shortened work week. Genetic manipulation of crops. These forecasts are not about the present or our future. They're about the past, or from the past about the past future. Now you see why I don't do this in Catalan. Specifically, these are from 1966. They are from a game created by the Rand Corporation, a very famous think tank based in Los Angeles, California. And there are many more of these forecasts inside, approximately 80 of these forecasts inside. So we are professional futurists. We are from a company called Changeist, and we are now based here in Barcelona. And we have a particular, like many artists or engineers or designers, we have our own working material. And there are two primary ingredients for this. And the work that we do is with companies, with foundations, and sometimes with museums, to understand the possible, to find out what the future might be. And we have these two ingredients that we use. At the simplest form are time and possibility. Just like this. We work with some sort of matrix of what could be happening or what could happen, probabilities, sometimes quantitative, sometimes qualitative, and when they could happen in the future. And everything else is a kind of combination of those two factors. So in this game, and from 1966, the future wasn't our future now. The future was our past, 1986. And this game imagined looking forward 20 years to 1986. What could happen? What possibilities were out there from the position of 1966 and 1965? Looking forward from the world. And a study was done to generate some 100 different possibilities about the future. But more interestingly, each of those possibilities was measured against the possibilities of the other things happening. So it becomes a kind of quantum system of objects having effects on other objects. So we might have a trend like a man landing on Mars and creating a base for mankind, for humankind. But that trend might also be affected by two other issues that enter into this time machine. And each of those factors changes the probability of the trend happening. Why would you do this? This was created by a couple of logicians and futurists from the RAND Corporation in 1966, one named Olaf Helmer, who was a German refugee from the war, and the other on the left with his pipe, it was Ted Gordon. Ted had just come from designing the Saturn V booster for the very young Apollo program at that point. We were still 3 years from landing on the moon. And the reason they did this is they had another company, a client, called Kaiser Aluminum. And Kaiser made many, many things from aircraft during the war to the small aluminum plates for TV dinners that you microwave with chicken and potatoes. They saw the future as being of infinite possibility, but they didn't know what it could be. But more importantly, they wanted to inspire people not to make forecasts about the future, but to imagine possibility and to spark this in their minds. And in 1966, many, many things were happening, and many things had just happened. In Los Angeles, where they created this game, the Watts riots, some of the earliest computers. We had the civil rights conflict in America. We had Vietnam conflict happening in very early form. We had Apollo 1 burning up on the launch pad and making it very uncertain that we would ever leave the Earth and go to another planet. So all of this complexity made the future quite challenging. For them, the future held all of these different possibilities, and they needed to design a kind of time machine, a system that would allow us to play a game with that future. Inside the game, as I said, we have many, many different trends, many, many different forecasts, each of those computed as a probability against another issue within the game. And all of those recorded with each probability so you could play the game against the future. The real key here was the dice, because with any game you need, do you have the dice? It's a very long word in Spanish, but a dodecahedron that was presented, a 20-sided dice if you play Dungeons and Dragons. And you would roll the dice like Las Vegas to find out whether you were high or low, whether you beat the probability or were below it. And it's a very slow game through 80 different forecasts, and some people win and some lose. And in a very modern way, there is also money, $1 billion bills that you could spend to buy the future, to make the probability greater. And 5 billion, 1 billion and 5 billion. So they forecasted Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And so the dice gave you a way of playing to decide whether you won or lost each individual forecast. But the thing about this game is it wasn't, meant for everyday people necessarily. It was given to the rich and powerful. There were only, I think, a few hundred copies made. It was given to, here, Bob McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense during Vietnam, who was famously obsessed with numbers and forecasts. It was given to the mayor of New York City. It was given to the chairman of Ford Motor Company. They put it on their beautiful desk in their office, and then nothing. Nothing happened. The game disappeared into time, into the future. All of this effort and time and forecasts and play and design into space. Until about 40, 50 years later, where we find everything, it shows up on eBay. And there are still maybe 1-2 copies a year that go up for sale. But we acquired it through eBay and then spent time interviewing, this is Ted again, the man with the pipe. He passed away this January at 93 years old. So he had worked all the way from the Saturn project for Apollo until January talking about forecasting COVID. I spoke to him in a long conversation, and he shared with me his own aspiration for why the game was created. It wasn't that we would solve the future, because so many of these forecasts in the box go around again. Everything in there is still waiting to happen in the future of 2024, 2044. But none of us in our jobs do this to guess what the future is really going to be. But in our own work and in this game, it's there as a reminder, as a monument, as a memento mori about why we should think about time and possibility and keep that in the center of our minds as we explore how we solve the problems in the world around us, how we make the world better. We think about time and possibility. If you'd like to read much more about the history of this, it's available in English. And we will move the game to where you can see it more directly. Thank you.